and to proclaim liberty to captives. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah.
The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. Since many have undertaken to compile a narrative of the events that have been fulfilled among us, just as those who were eyewitnesses from the beginning and ministers of the word have handed them down to us, I too have decided, after investigating everything accurately anew, to write it down in an orderly sequence for you, most excellent Theophilus, so that you may realize the certainty of the teachings you have received. Jesus returned to Galilee in the power of the Spirit, and news of him spread throughout the whole region. He taught in their synagogues and was praised by all. He came to Nazareth, where he had grown up, and went according to his custom into the synagogue on the Sabbath day. He stood up to read and was handed a scroll of the prophet Isaiah. He unrolled the scroll and found the message where it was written, "The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because he has anointed me to bring glad tidings to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim liberty to captives and recovery of sight to the blind, and let the oppressed go free, and to proclaim a year acceptable to the Lord." Rolling up the scroll, he handed it back to the attendant and sat down. And the eyes of all the synagogue looked intently at him. And he said to them, "Today, this scripture passage is fulfilled in your hearing." The Gospel of the Lord. Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
Sorry, Dom, I made Dom move the camera in the back. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. So this week we celebrate Catholic School Week, and I want to thank all of the Catholic school children who are here. After the homily, we're going to hear from Rose Mahan, who's going to give us a little talk about the school and her experience at the school. But I thought, what a great opportunity for me to share my own journey through education, which was mostly Catholic schools. Granted, I have a bias towards Catholic schools. Does not mean that public schools don't have great educational systems. I'm sure that they do, and there are many throughout the United States that are prominent in that regard. They're very highly regarded and do a wonderful job, but I still think Catholic schools are better. I'm sorry, I'm a little biased in my opinion. I did go to public high school for 4 years, but I'll rewind a little bit. My first experience of Catholic school was in Astoria, Queens, at a place called Most Precious Blood, and I was there until about the 3rd grade. Then we moved to North Jersey, and I did about a semester in a public school until I went to Our Lady of Grace in Fairview. So you're probably wondering, what kind of student was Father John? It's always kind of tough and weird to talk about yourself, but I'm going to show you how this thing all comes full circle, because I didn't really take a traditional path, if you will, like most young people. So I wasn't really a troublemaker in school. I was actually a decent kid. I wasn't the best. I got caught red-handed a couple times doing some stuff that I shouldn't have been doing. And even in high school, at Cliffside Park, I was considered one of the good kids, but I was not into school work. I was not. Now, my mother's at this mass. I don't know where she's sitting. Maybe she knew I was going to talk about this, so she hid somewhere. I really was not into schoolwork at all. I loved, you're going to think this is odd, I actually loved going to school for all the social aspects. I couldn't wait to get there and see my friends and talk to them and, you know, be part of the chess club. Can you imagine? I loved playing chess. and also basketball and football for a little bit. I loved those moments, but the work was so dreary to me. I'll share a funny story with you. Senior year, 1 week before graduation, my mother says to me, you're gonna find this unbelievable, "Am I coming to your graduation?" And I knew, because I was slick, that I had to work one more angle to try to pass this one class. I'm not gonna say the class or the teacher, but U2 was touring that year, 1987, Joshua Tree. And I scored second row orchestra tickets. And I knew that this teacher loved U2. I tried to bribe him. Listen, I got 2 tickets. He didn't take the bribe. And he taught me a lesson, but he made me do an extra piece of work 6 days before graduation so that I could pass that class. And yes, my mother did come to my graduation 5 days later. I made it. But, you know, I look back on those times, and if I were to show you my high school transcripts, you would not believe it. There were about 270 or so students in the class. I was about number 230 with a GPA of 1.7. 1.7. So you're not going to get into college with that. I didn't even take my SATs. So I was a laborer at Local 28 for about 2 years. And my father would say to me, "Yeah, you're getting good money." I was actually making more money than all my friends. And it was coming in fast and furious, especially with the overtime hours. Too much money for an 18-year-old kid, to be honest with you. So my father would say to me, "Is this the kind of work you want to do for the rest of your life? You want to work and, you know, pour concrete?" Not that that's not good. For some people it is. That's their calling. And I started thinking about that. And I realized that somewhere deep down inside of me, remembering some of those Catholic teachers who taught me great lessons outside of the books, if you will, I started getting this notion of wanting to teach myself. Isn't that odd? For a kid who didn't like the classroom. I started remembering some of the ones who left a great impression on me. And that started to stir in me, and I eventually even coaching, and I started getting into that first. Then I applied to Montclair State. They accepted me, I don't know how, by God's grace, and I did well there. And I wound up with close to 60 credits, but then I had this other calling to go into the seminary. So now I'm entering seminary, and we're sitting with the rector, and we have a choice to apply either to the Union Theological College or Catholic U. So I decide that I'm going to apply at Catholic U. So we're all sitting at the table. There's about 10 or 12 of us there with the rector, and he's going over all of our credentials. So you can imagine what I feel like, because now I had to call the high school, get my transcripts, no SATs, even though I got Montclair State in my resume, if you will, and the grades were A's, really. He gets to me, and he looks at it. He's never seen this before. And he gives me this crazy look, you know, like, "Where do you think you're going?" So he says out loud, it was a little embarrassing, but I got tough skin. He says, "John, doesn't look good for Catholic U." Now, this is in front of the others. It's not in private. Looks like you're going to be going to Prince George's Community College, at best, Maryland University. So I shouted out loud, "I'm going to Catholic U no matter what." You know, that was kind of that instinct in me. And he says, "Well, you know, you got to be serious. I know you got some credits here from Montclair State. That looks good. But your high school transcripts minus no SATs, it's very unlikely that they're going to accept you." So then he started talking to the others about all these scholarships that they could apply for. And there was one in particular that interested me. and it was the Cardinal Hickey Scholarship. He was the Archbishop Cardinal of Washington, D.C. at the time. So I had this big, bold idea that I'm going to go fill out this scholarship, and for some odd reason, I'm thinking I'm going to get it. So it had all this criteria that I was supposed to fill out and follow and all the rest. So I started writing, and you see those movies where somebody tries to start writing something, just keep throwing it out. So finally I calmed myself, prayed a little bit, and I said, Lord, tell me what to write on this letter. Because I want to get into this school so much so that I felt if I didn't get in, I was going to leave. That's kind of the prayer I put forward. So all of a sudden, I just felt like the Lord said to me, just tell them all about your life. Forget about the classes and what you did. So my opening line was, Dear Cardinal Hickey, there are a million reasons why you should not give me the scholarship, nor why the school should accept me in. And then I gave him my family history, my history in coaching, but towards the end, I said to him, Dear Cardinal, I will not let you down. I make you that solemn promise, even if you don't give me the scholarship, but you get me into this school. So about 3 weeks later, we're sitting back down at the table, and I'm very afraid, because I'm thinking I got two choices here. Either I'm going to have to accept that I'm going to Prince George's Community, which is probably nothing wrong with that, right? Or I might be going home, So he's going through everybody. Can you believe I had to go last? He's opening up everybody's letter. Okay, you're going here, you're going there. So now he's opening my letter, and I could feel all the sweat in my palms, and blood fingers, So he opens it up, looks at it, and he's stunned. He said, there's a letter in here for you from Cardinal Hickey. So he starts to read it out loud, and I'm thinking, is he going to say, John, thank you for such a great letter, but I'm sorry? So it basically went, Dear John, I loved your letter. Welcome to Catholic University. So he gave me the scholarship, and he says, you better not let me down. He wrote on the thing. But the story doesn't end there. About 2 years later, I was doing some research in the library, and Cardinal Hickey, the Cardinal, he's checking out a book. You would think that the Cardinal has to check out a book. He can just take whatever he wants. But he's at the front, at the counter. He's checking out a book, and I said, I got to go up to him. Because I know he probably will remember the letter, but he doesn't have a face to the letter. So I politely interrupted him. I said, Cardinal Hickey, I just wanted to take a moment to say thank you. My name is John Pickenick. I'm the one who sent you the letter about 2 years ago. And I just wanted, first thing he said, how are you doing? I said, don't worry, I didn't tar your name or anything like that. So he's like, I love the letter, and I wish I had more students like that, applying. So I said, I'm not going to let you down, I promise. We shook hands, and we said we'd pray for each other. And still the story doesn't end. 3 years later, I guess it's my second year of theology, and I was doing ministry work for the Little Sisters of the Poor. It was a nursing home right across from the university near the Ukrainian Catholic Church. And the Little Sisters were unbelievable. They were the ones who went to Supreme Court and fought, that they would take care of the medical questions. But that's not part of this story. Cardinal Hickey had gotten ill, and he was confined to the nursing home. And at some point, he was beginning to fail. And I was responsible for him, and I would bring him in the wheelchair to Mass. I put the stole on him. He couldn't talk no more. I just hope he's proud of me now.